not motivate an unmotivated person. Here's what you're not looking for. You're not looking for somebody who says this, oh, I'm so burnt out on my job, and I just hate working so hard on this corporate gig, and I want to be an entrepreneur.
If you were to lose everything today, start from completely zero, no connections, no network, everything by yourself with all the knowledge and experience that you have throughout the years, what would you do?
If I had to start all over again, I would take all of the knowledge I have around workflows and automation and making things work well in a tech environment, and then apply that to a.
Welcome back to another episode of ThirstCast. My name is Dennis Chajos. Today we're joined by a very special guest, Bryan Clayton. Bryan, thank you for coming along. I know that you like to talk on other people's podcasts, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to come along as well and share your story and successes.
Well, thanks for having me on, Dennis. It's great to be here.
Yeah, no problem at all. So, Bryan, I looked up a little bit about what you do, how you help other people. You're the founder and CEO of GreenPal. At any point I'm saying something that is not right, just correct me. And how do you came up with the idea of building a software that is easy to use for your customers and people are coming to you for this specific reason?
Yeah, so for people who don't know what GreenPal is a mobile app or website that works like DoorDash or Instacart or Uber, but for lawn maintenance services. So if you live in the United States and you need to get somebody to cut your grass, rather than calling around on Craigslist or Facebook or something like that, you just download GreenPal, you put your address in, and then lawn mowing services nearby you start to compete for your business. They submit pricing to you, and then you can hire the one you want to work with and pay them right through the app. GreenPal has a 10-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at this for a little over a decade, and now around 300,000 people in the U.S. use it every week for lawn mowing services. And the idea actually came from my first business, which was a grass cutting service. I started mowing yards in high school as a way to make extra cash, stuck with that lawn mowing business all through high school, all through college, and little by little grew it into a big business, about 150 employees, and then sold it. And after I sold it, I took some time off, and I thought, well, maybe I could be a tech entrepreneur. Maybe I could build a website that works like Uber does, but for this industry that I know. And I didn't really understand the challenges that were going to be involved with inventing a new product and inventing a marketplace. But that naivete was kind of an asset. It's almost beneficial to not know how hard something is going to be, because if I did know how challenging it was going to be, I never would have started it. So started working on the first version of the website back in 2013, and took a couple years to get something that worked. But little by little, we made it better and better, and now today it's nationwide in the United States, and soon we'll be international in UK and Canada, and when we come to UK, you'll be the first person to know.
Absolutely. I would like to hear more about that. And coming back to what you said about you came out this whole concept, was that specifically that all you were always looking for is to start a software business and connect people with other people? Because that is brilliant. And I think this is, you said, when was that? Was that about 10 years ago? Or
Yeah, it's a good question. So my first business was very much a hands-on, blue-collar, kind of hand-to-hand combat style of business, and it's a good business to kind of go from 0 to 1, to kind of get on first base, so to speak. But when I sold it, I thought, well, my next business, I want to build something that can scale and that I can maybe touch the mass market with, and something that can grow beyond just my city. And so I knew that I wanted to build something that was technology based. I didn't really know
right.
what, but I knew that I wanted to build something that could have broader impact. And when I started looking for ideas, I thought, well, I might as well just try to innovate in this industry that I know. And I think that authenticity can be a competitive advantage when you're trying to start a new company, and that's kind of how it was for me. So I figured if I could combine the blue collar experience with what I knew running a 150 person landscaping business with learning the tech that I could create something that was new that nobody else was doing. And so that's kind
Yes.
of what led me to that. And I think if you're building a technology based product, you can build something that can scale, that can touch the mass market, because because that's one of the beautiful things about technology. The challenging thing is usually you're inventing something brand new from scratch, and that's hard. That's a lot harder than running a traditional landscaping or construction company.
Mhm.
Inventing something brand new is a lot more challenging. Nobody told me that, and so you kind of just go from trial and error and going from one failure to the next, just trying to figure out how to get that to work. But after a few years, we figured out what would work, and then we were able to kind of scale it throughout the United States.
That sounds great. I mean, when I first came across your software, the first thing that reminded me was what Patrick Bay David has created, Minect, where they connect people with professionals, with experts. I'm not sure whether you are familiar with their software. And to me, that is so amazing because you might need a 5-10 minute conversation with somebody to solve you a specific problem that you have, because one thing that I've learned myself throughout the years that I'm trying to focus more on my entrepreneurship journey is to what type of problem am I solving. And to me, that concept, it was amazing. And through our 2023, I will say 2024, I see more and more of SaaS software out there trying to figure out how people can help other people through software. And also with AI specifically nowadays, it doesn't require an engineer to come and set it up. I mean, it would be nice to have just play around with the software, but the main things that I've tested myself, AI can be very great to set something like that in today's age. Are you fan of AI? What's your concepts about AI?
Yeah. So to your earlier point, yes, we were using validation from other companies to apply to this humble little world of lawn maintenance. So up until then, the world kind of operated in 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 bits. And so what I mean by that is like it was a software was a digital thing. People interacted in a digital way. But then Uber came along and showed us that actually no, it could be atoms, that you could use a screen and then a car would show up. And that was a new kind of a new thing. And so when I saw that, I took inspiration from that, and I thought, well, that could work for the lawn maintenance industry. And so it's not all about just bits; it could be also atoms. And so to your point, if you can take inspiration from other use cases of people, buyers and sellers connecting, and then apply that to something that you know, and use software to help make that happen smoother. That's kind of how it happened for me. And yeah, to your second point, today it is easier to test these ideas to figure out, okay, I want to build a marketplace that will connect people with dog walkers, or I want to build a marketplace that will connect people with pool service cleaners or home painters, whatever it is. With today's technology and AI, you can test these ideas a lot easier. So you can figure out, okay, would if I got a prototype together, could I get 100 people to try it out, and then validate if it's a good idea or not. But if you want to build out the entire system, where you have a scheduling system, a booking system, a payment system, a reviewing system, and everything that goes with that, you're still going to have developers and engineers at the core competency of what it is that you do. We're not at a
Mhm.
place yet where you can just kind of drag and drop and just kind of speak your way into a fully functioning software product. Maybe one day we will, and maybe one day soon, but not yet. So AI, as it stands right now, is more of it lowers the barrier to entry for getting a prototype together to experiment
Yes.
and validate an idea.
Hmm.
And so it does that. And then on the flip side, it can take a it can take a mediocre engineer and make them a pretty darn good engineer. And it can take a good developer and make them a lot faster. It can accelerate what's already working. But the in between, I haven't found that it can replace that. And when we were building GreenPal, we made a big mistake. This was 10 years ago, before a lot of this stuff existed. We thought we could
Yeah.
outsource. We thought we could outsource the tech, and we thought we would
Absolutely.
just.
I think with today's age, I mean, you have taken everything that you do on another level. From a small little research that I've done, is it true that you're worth about 85 million net worth 2024?
Well, I don't really talk
Is that
about that,
statement
but
correct?
yeah, I don't really talk about that. But you can do some googling around if you like.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But the point I'm trying to make is that different, the way I see it, that different tiers of expertise and knowledge that you need to have after a certain amount of time. And a lot of people, including myself, stuck in the first phase of how do I put my message out there? How do I scale? How do I take the thing that I've created from scratch, whether I have 10 years of experience or 0 years of experience? How do I take this from the ground and up so I can then start and building a team, focusing more on the subject or the software, whatever that might be? To your experience and your expertise, how would you approach that specific scenario?
Yeah. So the hardest thing is going from zero to one, and what I mean by that is like just getting something that 10 customers, 100 customers will pay for. And what trips up a lot of new founders is they want to do everything but get those first 10 or 100 customers, and they want to do all of the, you know social media marketing and branding and design and build more features and all of these things, rather than just go hustle up 100 customers, and then literally like live with those customers. And what I mean by that is interacting with them every day, trying to figure out what it is that you're building that they like, what it is that they don't like, what they wish you would do. There's a great book about this, The Lean Startup, which is like the Bible about how to build a product that does not exist, and trying to find a market that needs it, and or build a product that a market wants, and building that solves a problem that the market wants, and not building something that nobody wants, which is what most people do. And in the early days, you should really be doing two things. You should be working on building the product, which is like, designing it, coding it, write you know writing content for it, uh, literally laying down the code, like working on the product. And then the second thing you should be doing is getting people to use that product. And you should not be doing anything else other than those two things. And I know it sounds crazy, or maybe it sounds super simple, or maybe it sounds super obvious, but a lot of new founders do all sorts of things other than those two things. And until you've got your first 100 customers, or maybe even 500 customers, you shouldn't be doing anything else other than those two things. And so all that being said, what trips up a lot of new founders is they will want to do everything but that, and then they'll waste 6 months or a year or sometimes 2 years building something that nobody wants, and and then they get disillusioned and they give up. And I'll tell you a very quick story about a friend of mine that almost did this. He I've got a marketplace that connects buyers and sellers and helps them transact easier. And he wanted to build a marketplace very similar to that, and he just built a house. And he said, "Hey, I have an idea. I want to build a marketplace kind of like yours." And I said, "Okay, what's the idea?" He said, "Well, I just built this house, and I was able to find a front door for the house that was a $10,000 front door, and I was able to get it for $700. I said, really? That's cool. How'd you do that? He said, well, these supply yards have all of this excess inventory in the back, and they don't have a efficient way to sell that stuff. And so there's this big opportunity for a marketplace to come in and aggregate all of that dead inventory and make it very easy for homeowners to buy it.
Right.
I said, okay, that's a good idea. He goes, yeah. So I'm coding up the website now. I'm building out the inventory system. I'm working on getting our social media accounts set up. And then I'm going to hire a VA to help me with this. And then I'm going to talk. I'm interviewing a few engineers. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Hold on just a second. I said, before you do any of that, I said, this place that you just bought the $10,000 front door for $700. Let's go over there and talk to them and say, hey, listen, I want to sit in the office and I want to sell as much of this crap as I can on Craigslist, OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, the newspaper, whatever it is, and I'll let you keep half of the proceeds. And let's just do that first. Let's just sell half of it. Let's just sell all their inventory, or let's just sell $1,000 of it, or $10,000 of it, and let's just sell it. And then let's just figure out the mechanics of that before we build out the tech. And he goes, no, I don't have time for that. I got to code the inventory system. I got to build the ordering system. I got to build the SEO system. I'm like, bro, just calm down, please. Just spend 5 days, do that before you do all this. So he's like, okay. Begrudgingly, he goes and does that, and he calls me 2 days later, and he says, there's no business here. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, man, this stuff, it doesn't fit anything. People expect it to be this. It's this. I did sell one window, but I had to it came back. It's so mismatched. Like, there's a reason why this stuff sits in the back. No technology could solve these problems. And I said, okay, well, at least you didn't waste 2 years building a marketplace.
Figure it out.
Yeah, building a marketplace for a business that wasn't a business. And so
it doesn't even exist. Yeah.
Right. And so the point of that story is to take the idea and distill it down to its smallest unit, test it first, and see if there's actually a business there, and then build the tech around that. And that could save you. It could save you 2 or 3 years. It could save you a decade.
I like that. I like that concept. And another great thing that I've learned from other people, and one thing that I've took from Alex Hormozy specifically, one goal specifically, is especially when it comes to products or services and finding customers is, and I use this myself, I work towards to a goal. Some say you should at least try and reach out 10 people or 100 people. I like to set myself a goal and say, unless I reach this goal, I'm not going to move.
I like that.
And this is a great thing, in my opinion, that you can implement to something that you do, that you don't have any background to support or maybe you don't have a brand already, you don't have existing customer list or whatever that might be, and you're starting from scratch, because the amount of people that I personally know, and I was there myself, so I know from experience how does it feel like to get your head together, where to start, what to build, whatever, is at least trying to figure out and get as much as feedback from your potential customers to see whether your idea is going to work or not.
Absolutely.
Coming back to one of your previous podcasts that I recently saw, you mentioned you need two people. You need a hacker and a hustler. And that stayed with me because I can relate so much to that. Can you expand for the people to understand a little bit more on the concept?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people rush out to go get co-founders, and I think, having a co-founder can be extremely helpful, and it can make or break the business. But a lot of times people go get co-founders as kind of a coping mechanism, And what I mean by that is they want somebody else to, it's like, okay, I'm not really sure if I want to start this business, but maybe if this person is just as stupid as I am, and and maybe that might validate my idea if they will do it with me. I've seen that, and so don't fall into that trap. Only get a co-founder if they can complement your skills in a way where you're a builder in such a way and they're a builder in such a way, and the two of you can help build this thing. And ideally you get what Paul Graham calls a hacker and a hustler. So you get somebody who's just a hustler, who is just very driven, who's goal oriented, who is who is discontent when things aren't moving forward, who is just pissed off if there is no progress. That's a hustler. And then you
Right.
get a hacker, you get somebody who knows the software side of it, can develop, can code, knows, not somebody that knows how to operate like a low code thing, or knows how to knows maybe coded 10 years ago or something. Somebody who is actually laying down code today and can develop software. And then the two of these people come together, and like 1 plus 1 is 10. And the two of them can chart their way because they can build their themselves out of any situation. And it's like you got Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Ideally, that's what you get. And for me,
Right.
I can confidently kind of articulate this because I kind of did it the wrong way, where I recruited two co-founders and we were three hustlers, and we quickly realized that the three of us were kind of redundant. That the three of us knew sales, we knew how to get a business going, but none of us knew how to build software. And so we had to take 3 years and learn how to build software. We had to become the hustler, so I mean the hacker side. And so that was really challenging, and I would advise to like not try to go about it that way. You can learn anything, especially with YouTube University. You can learn how to build software. You can learn how to code. It's just going to take a couple of years,
Yeah.
but that's how I experienced it. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have. Of course, my two co-founders, I wouldn't have traded them out at all. But I would have thought about it differently, in terms of who I was looking for, and what kind of skill sets I was looking for. And I would advise you to not get a co-founder until you find your business soulmate, somebody you can't imagine starting the business without. Think about it like, if you had $10 million in the bank, would you write them a check for $10 million to start the business with you? Because ultimately, their equity could become worth $10 million. I mean, if you're doing, that's what you're in this for. You want to build a valuable company. Their equity will
Hmm.
become worth $10 million, or you'll raise a round of funding where you'll be diluted, to the point of whatever their equity is worth $10 million. And so think about it that way. Would you write them a check for $10 million to start the business with you today? And if you don't feel that confident about it, then maybe they're not your business soulmate. And so that's how I think about co-founders,
Yeah.
based on my experience.
What qualities would you say you will be looking at? Say that you found somebody that you really like, they seem like they have the same work ethos as you. So what qualities would you say would you look at first?
Yeah, you,
Top
you
three.
you people don't change, and so you cannot motivate an unmotivated person. And so the past is the predictor of the future. And so you really have to look at what have they built, what have they done up until this point in their life. And you almost, like, where they went to school and what they say almost doesn't matter. And it's almost irrelevant. And this goes for hiring. My statements, I've only had dynamics around co-founders a handful of times, so these statements are more rooted in hiring. But co-founding a business with somebody is a very similar dynamic to hiring. And so, um, you're looking at past track record. What hobbies do they have? Have they started? Did they run a lawn mowing business in high school? Did they run a hot dog stand, for Christ's sake? Did they did they you know have they ever tried to get a business off the ground? If they're the hacker side of your team, what kind of products have they launched into the marketplace? What what have they built? It's not who do you know. It's not where you went to school. It's not what you say. It's what you've built and what you've done. What is their online? You know, do they blog? Do they have a blog? Do they write on Reddit or Quora? You're looking for
Yes.
like past track record of some sort of signals around a motivated person who wants to be more in life, that wants to build something big, that's curious, that's intelligent, that that is focused. Um, you're not looking for somebody. Here's what you're not looking for. You're not looking for somebody who says this. Oh, I'm so burnt out on my job, and I just hate working so hard on this corporate gig, and I want to be an entrepreneur. That's a trap that a lot of would be entrepreneurs fall into because they think that this is an easier journey, and it's not.
Wow. Yes.
It's 100 times harder.
Absolutely.
I saw a meme the other day where it was a screenshot from the movie Oppenheimer, and it's the scene where Oppenheimer is sitting on his he's sitting on like his recliner, and he's completely naked with his legs crossed, and he's like pondering something, and he's probably pondering like the atom bomb or something. And the caption says, "Me about to lose it, considering quitting my corporate job just to go run a coffee shop, just to go start my own coffee shop." And like I'm looking at this meme, and I'm like, what the creator of this meme doesn't know is that should they go quit their corporate gig, they're going to work 100 times harder for half the money running their little coffee shop.
Absolutely.
And so it's
No
like,
more. No more weekends.
yeah, normal week is it's going to be 7 days a week. It's never going to be off. They're going to make half the money. They're going to have 10 times the headaches. And they have no idea, like no idea. Like 10 different levels of taxing authorities that you have to pay, and licenses and vendors and inspectors and all of this BS just to run a little coffee shop. And so they have no clue.
Yeah, with a very small and thin margins that
Right.
they barely even go by.
Right, exactly. And you'll be happy to break even in your first year and not lose money.
Absolutely.
And so that meme kind of tells you everything you need to know about the mindset of most first time founders and most first time founders. And you need to have that meme in your head when you are considering bringing on a co-founder, because that's the mentality that most people have when they want to co-found a business with you.
Absolutely.
And so you're looking for somebody, you really want somebody who's tried and failed a couple things, and who's been around the block a couple times and has the scars, because at least they kind of
given up.
Right, and haven't given up. And here's what they learned, and here's what they learned, and they learned. And you want somebody who has skills, who can build, who can do things. A lot of people don't know this, and I know I'm rambling, but a lot of people don't know this. The founders of Airbnb, the CTO Nate, and I can't pronounce his last name. He was like, not only was he a brilliant like CS degree from I think MIT or somewhere, but at the time in 2008, he was one of the preeminent spammers in the world in terms of running Gmail spam farms. And he was already making something like 10 grand a month running a spam farm. And so it was those skills around spamming that helped Airbnb reverse engineer Craigslist and spam the hell out of Craigslist with listings to get their first like 1,000 or 10,000 customers. Without that guy and that skill, there is no Airbnb today, because they wouldn't have been able to get over that hump. They wouldn't have been able to raise the funding. So that's what you're looking for when you're trying to get a co-founder, is what kind of specific skills and track record do they have that shows that they've executed on those skills. Not not where they went to school, not who they know, and not what they say.
That's great. And just to add to that a little bit, what I like to do myself, because I'm nowhere near to your level or to other people's level I'll normally have conversations with. So I'll try to do as much as I can. So I would say I fall into that first phase concept is to, if you don't have enough money to spend into coaching, to masterminds, because I think these two alone can increase dramatically your own experience and how you can scale your business even more, is to, that's what I do at least. I take small pieces of education from ultra successful people or from the people that I'm looking up for. So for example, I would say I look up to Mr. Beast and I take few small pieces of what Mr. Beast is saying, and I'll take small pieces from that. So I look up Alex Hormozy and what is he doing in his own business, and how is he hiring, how is he finding certain things, how he goes about talking about business. I look up Patrick Bet David talking about mindset, entrepreneurship, what you need to be looking out in individuals, which is I also like to ask people as well so I can get their own perspective to that. But I would say this is everybody should at least begin, is to try and not mimic or copy specifically, but trying to get pieces of information from a lot of important people that have succeeded and they are as close as to what you want to do to improve every single time. And from there is coming back to what you said, is finding the right people in the right places to place them, so you can't do all at once. You have to find, as you said, the two things. You should be investing more of your time, and I think I'll be doing this more often. Sometimes it's good to have a good reminder like yourself, say, hey, I need to take a step back and actually focus on the things that really matter. I want to ask you, if you were to lose everything today, start from completely zero, no connections, no network, everything by yourself with all the knowledge and experience that you have throughout the years, what would you do?
Yeah, that's a scary question.
It's a very scary one.
Yeah, because I'm 44 and I'm having fun running this business, and but it's taking 10 years to get where we are today, and it's still day one. I don't know that I have the tread on the tires to do it again because it was really hard. The first 5 years was like trying to push a rope up a mountain. So I don't know that I would start another tech company just because it's so damn hard and it's so hard to build something that people want. So I probably would not do that. If I had to start all over again, I would take all of the knowledge I have around workflows and automation and making things work well in a tech environment, and then apply that to a blue collar small business, and then I would execute that at a. So I would almost go back to where I started, but with the knowledge I have today, and I would start a blue collar business. This is assuming I have no capital, I have no connections, and I have to start all over again. I would start some sort of contracting business. It could be home construction, home remodeling. It could be a trade. It could be landscaping again. And then I would automate every aspect of it with technology, unlike my competitors were doing, because I have this experience from the tech side now. And then I would take that low quality revenue of that blue collar business and I would invest it in high quality revenue. So I would take every dime of that and put it in real estate investments and stocks. And I would do that for 10 years, and then I would be wealthy again, maybe even 5 years. I could probably get to a point where I wouldn't have to work again in 5 to 10 years, if I had to start
Right.
from scratch with everything I know today, no connections, no money. I mean, if I was smart, I would probably come up with an idea and then go raise a bunch of money and then use that money as leverage to execute against that. And that's probably another path. I might consider that, but that aside, if I had to kind of like pull myself up from my bootstraps and go it alone and not raise capital, that's what I would do. And so my point in saying all of that is not like from a is not from a standpoint of, oh, I could make it again. No, my point is saying that is that anybody can do that. Is that anybody can literally go work a traditional and start a traditional blue collar type of of service based business and apply technology and automation to it in ways that their competitors are not, and work their butt off, stay lean and mean, take every dime, invest that low quality revenue into high quality revenue, rinse and repeat, do that in 5 to 10 years, and you can retire. That's just a blueprint that anybody can do. And I've seen it, and I've done it. And and the idea of the blue collar millionaire is something that I love, because I grew up around it, and guys in overalls that drive pickup trucks that are worth 40 and $50 million. I just love that, and because it shows me that anybody can do it, and that's what I would do. Heaven forbid.
That's very interesting. And the reason I'm asking this question is because I recently saw the documentary Grant Cardone did. So similar concept. They took all his money, connections, network, and so on, and were throwing him with $100. I think it was in the middle of nowhere, and he had it to start a scratch. And so I wanted to see what what somebody would do. And one thing that I've learned the hard way myself is the closer that you are to survivability, the more hard you become as a person, the more
Hmm.
cold you become as a person, then the more hustler you become because you don't have any other way. This is the only way. So I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate everything that you have said to me. One thing that I just really wanted to ask you was, as I see that you're going on a lot of podcasts as well. What drives you? What's the factor that still drives you to show up, do the things that you have to do,
Yeah,
even though
I
you don't want to do them?
so a couple things. I think I'm just kind of one of the I'm wired to want to see progress, want to see something pushing forward, want to see something prospering, and if it's not, I'm just discontent. And I learned this when I sold my first business. I took like a year off trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I really just kind of wanted to do real estate investing and just get a bunch of passive income and live the good life. I don't know what that was, but that's what my intentions were. And I tried to do that, and I got really discontent really quick because I wasn't part of something bigger than myself. I wasn't part of anything that was bigger than just this self-serving kind of mindset. And that is fun for like a week, maybe a month, but it gets existential really quick. And so then I realized, man, I really need to build. I need to be a part of another project. I need another team, and I need another mission. And
Right.
the answer to the question of like, if it wasn't for me, then what? And if I didn't get out of bed this morning, what would happen? And for me, 22 years, the answer to that question has always been my business. In my first business, it was, if it wasn't for me, well, there's 100 some odd employees that need a paycheck and they have families, and if you don't get up and show up at the office, this thing isn't going to get held together, and they depend on you. And now, fast forward 20 years later, well, if it's not for me, this network that we've built around buyers and sellers, there's 35,000 small business owners that depend on it to run their business. If I can't show up and bring good ideas to the table, and those folks aren't going to have a livelihood. And so I take that seriously, and it's important, and so it gives meaning to my life. And so those things are hard lessons that I learned when I sold my first company, started my second, that I need to have that in my life. If I don't, I get discontent really, really quick. And I made a decision when I sold the first company, started the second one, that no matter what, I was just going to work on my best idea moving forward. I was just going to work as hard as I could on my best idea. And fortunately, I haven't had any better ideas in 10 years. This is it. There should be an app. You should be able to push a button and you should be able to get this chore done. And then as a service provider, you should be able to make as much money as you want in the lawn mowing business from your smartphone. That's it. That was the idea. And we're still working on that idea 10 years later. And so kind of making that decision that you're just going to work on your best idea eliminates a lot of the bright, shiny object syndrome, and it eliminates a lot of the distraction. It's like, okay, this is my idea. I'm going to be maniacally focused on it, and I'm not going to worry about anything else for a decade. I think it can help clarify your thinking, and it can help kind of clarify a lot of the decisions of should I keep going, should I not, should I do this thing, should I do that thing, and a lot of times it can increase your odds of success because what holds up a lot of people is giving up too quick. They don't give it enough time. I mean, yeah, you don't want to confuse patience with procrastination. I see that too, where people are like, "Oh, I'm just trusting the process and manifesting it," and like 2 years go by and they have the same amount of customers, same amount of sales. So you have to grind and you have to knock down goals, but you also have to give it time because compounding does take time. And so that's what keeps me going is I made a promise that I was just going to keep working on my best idea. What we do is important. I know it seems like a simple, trivial thing, grass cutting, but it's an important service for small business owners that make their living in this industry. And that's what keeps me getting out of bed every morning, and that's what keeps me trying to stay sharp to bring fresh ideas and fresh strategies to making what we do better and better.
And I think that's why I see that you have succeeded to the level that you are now, because even at this stage that you could easily say, I'm not going to work tomorrow, you still decide to wake up and do the work because you have to, because you care about other people's and you put other people's first. And I think that's a very great quality to have as a person, no matter whether it's just in business. And speaking about that, who is Brian outside of work? How would you like to spend your time? I see that you travel a lot. You like traveling.
Yeah, so I'm not married. I don't have kids, and so that gives me a lot of free time. And so, for me, I guess I've been married to my business for the last 2 decades in some shape or form. For me, family's important. I'm actually in Nashville, Tennessee, visiting family right now. Um, but if I'm not here with family, then I am traveling somewhere in the world. About 5 years ago, I made a decision that after GreenPal got to a point where we reached profitability, that I had just almost turned 40, and I was like, man, I had never been out of the United States, and I thought I better get busy seeing some of this stuff because I don't know, I mean, a friend of mine had actually just passed away, and I thought, you just don't ever know, so I just booked a one-way ticket to Australia, stayed there for like 2 months, and then I was just hooked on being in different environments and experiencing different cultures and experiencing different parts of the world, and then working while doing that to me became a really good combination of building the business, helping the business drive forward, but also doing it in different environments was a lot of fun to me, and I haven't looked back since. I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm usually in some different part of the world, and so that's a big part of my passion. Uh, Fitness is something that I'm learning is getting more and more important as I get older. If you seem like a young man, I'll give if you don't use it, you lose it. And when I started GreenPal, I let myself get almost to 300 pounds and way out of shape because I was just so focused on the business. And my co-founder and I signed up for a marathon and ran that marathon to get back in shape. So don't let that happen to you. You got to keep your vessel and tuned in order to run this marathon of starting a business. And so fitness is important to me, my family and travel. Those are the things I guess that comprise what it is I do outside of my business. But for me, man, like for 22, 25 years, I am my business. My business is me. And I know that's probably not healthy. And I know a lot of people will say you got to have balance, but but I don't know any other way to do it and
Yeah.
to make something work.
I don't think there is balance to consider when you haven't make it yet. And I think everybody knows when you have made it or not, and when you still on the grind. And
Yeah,
I still have a lot. I'm still on the grind. I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of people. And I have friends who say to me, "You need to have good balance. You need to take care of you, and so on." But they don't understand what it takes because, as we previously said, I don't have days off. I work Monday to Sunday from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, and then I go to the gym every so often. So I
I
think
think, man,
it's that.
I think I think to go from 0 to 1 to I know this metaphor may not translate, but to get on first base, I think you got to do that for a decade, or 5 years. I did. I had to, and I don't work 7 days a week now. I don't work 100 hours a week now, but I did it at one point in my life, and I think you really have to. And the people who are telling you that you're crazy, that you don't have to do that, they're not they're going a different path in life, and there's nothing wrong with the path that they're going on, but they're not trying to break out. They're not
Yeah,
trying to do something outside of the norm of just going to a job and getting 3 or 4 weeks a year vacation or whatever. They're not trying to become financially independent and to break uh, out of the
the
mold, I guess
system.
you could say. Yeah, and
Yes.
so and so,
Yeah.
I don't know any other way to do it other than what you described, because that's what I had to go through as well in my first and
Absolutely.
second business. So for whatever it's
Yeah.
worth, that's my feedback on that.
This is something that I used to hear David Goggins would say when you're at that sport where you're still struggling, where you're still stressed, have the anxiety, but you still keep pushing forward. When other people say you need to have a balance, there's no you are that spot. You know that spot that you know that you're doing something.
Yeah,
And I truly appreciate that and I see that every single day that I'm waking up. What's your why? I took that from Grant Cardone as well. What is your why? And why do you keep pushing forward every single day? And to me personally, it was my family. And it wasn't me specifically that I wanted to succeed so I can get things that I wanted to get. Those things that are nice to have, I'm not so much materialistic at this point. But what matters the most is so I can get everybody that I know that I care about out of this loophole so I can feel like it's time for me to care about me. I know this is not a lot of people who agree with what I say and what I do about this, but at the end of the day, it's up to me what to decide I want to do for myself. Now, if other people want to come along on this ride, they're more than happy, but there is a long ride and is a long waves
I
they
agree.
need to ride with me and know a lot of people will compromise their own life to do that, let alone for themselves, let alone for somebody else. So it's difficult. Coming back to what you said that you've traveled a lot. How many countries you've been to?
I lost count, but it's probably it's over 100. I have fantasies of seeing every country, but you start getting into certain parts of the world where it's just like, man, I'm just knocking off countries just to mark them off a list because they're starting to blend together. And so I don't know about that. Maybe I'll do that at a certain point in time. But some of my favorite parts of the world is South America. I love it down there. Um, I love Eastern Europe. I just spent a lot of time in the Middle East, about 3 months in the Middle East, going from different places. I was there during Ramadan, which was really neat to see. It was really neat to see everybody kind of marching to the same beat, where everybody was fasting, everybody was kind of doing the same thing. That's something that we don't have in the United States, where everybody is kind of like
No.
on the same is on the same wavelength. That was really cool to see. Um, so yeah, and this lifestyle is not sustainable for a long time. I mean, at a certain point in time, you got to kind of like pull it, reel it in. But I'm gonna probably do this for another 3-4 years, and I guess you could call it a digital nomad lifestyle because
Yes.
I'm in a different place
Mm.
every month or two, sometimes every 3 or 4 days. Sometimes I'm moving around every 3 or 4 days. If I'm in a part of the world I want to kind of like knock out 4 or 5 or 10 or, different cities. I'll move every 4 or 5 days, and sometimes I'll stay in one place for 2 months. It
Do
has
you
its
find
drawbacks, but for now it works for me and I enjoy it.
do you fly private or are you just using commercial?
I don't have private jet money. I'm still very much with everybody else, and I don't know that man. I mean, you start doing the math on what that costs and what the trade off costs are on that. I don't know how a lot of people justify that, but yeah, I now my travel has gotten better over the years, but not on that level yet.
Absolutely. To sum it up, what would you say is the best country you've ever been, or rather, a country you would feel like you could stay for the rest of your days?
Oh, that's a great
That's a
question.
tough one.
Yeah, because it's a combination of several things. It's a combination of weather. Um, Weather's big. I would tell you somewhere in Eastern Europe, but man, the winters are just so brutal there. So that's out. And then it's a combination of security, safety, um, and so that's tough. And then not the United States. Not a knock on the United States, but I would do something different than the United States. So somewhere I could live for the rest of my life and be happy. And then economics aside, because it's like, okay, don't worry about what it costs. I probably, man. I mean, I probably would. New Zealand would be high on that list. Um, Parts of Brazil would be high on that list. Um, Let me think, and
How do you
then
feel about Dubai? I see that you've been there.
man, Dubai was cool, and I was really impressed with just how they have transformed that place in a span of 30 years. I mean, such incredible leadership to be able to do that.
Hmm.
But when I was there, it's just missing something, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It's missing a certain it's missing a certain authenticity, and it's missing a certain vibration level. And I'm not big on energy levels and that kind of woo woo stuff, but if you visit an old city in Eastern Europe, like or you just you walk around any old part of Europe, and then you walk around Dubai for a week, you'll feel differently,
Right.
just in terms of the way the architecture makes you feel as a human being, and the way the city makes you feel is very, very, very different. And it was almost like a weird emptiness that I felt there. That everything was very artificial and manufactured, and I think that in a weird way manifests itself into the people. The people there I would characterize as very transactional. And what can you? And that's really every
Mm.
major city in the
Right.
world. Miami, L.A., New York are like that. Um, are very what can you do for me type of way. But Dubai was very much like that, and so I didn't
Was
I
it
didn't
okay?
appreciate that. But that aside, I mean, incredible human achievements in terms of architecture and what they managed to do with just a desert in 30 years. I mean, just incredible. Could I live there? Not a chance. And the weather there is horrible in the summer. So that's out. So no, it would probably be if I had to live somewhere forever, it would probably be Barcelona, somewhere in New Zealand, or somewhere in Brazil.
Okay, that's different. This particular question I ask everybody on the show,
Very
and
cool.
everybody's got different responses. Only because I like to learn from people, and especially from others that they have experienced something different that I haven't, and also the facts people are traveling a lot, like yourself. I like to understand based on your responses it gives me, just for 5 seconds, it gives me that feeling of how would it be to be in that place, even if I'm not in that place, so I can understand where I want to be in like physical place.
Yeah, very cool. Well, you'll see them one day soon enough.
I hope so. I hope so. Where can people find you, Brian?
Yeah, LinkedIn's a great place to find me. Instagram, Bryan M. Clayton. Hit me up on either of those. Drop me a DM and I'll hit you back.
Brilliant. Sounds amazing. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that you took the time of the day to come on the show and have a quick chat with me. And I hope we can do a take two.
Let's do it. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers. Have a good day.
Bye bye.